Hey, healthcare leaders, welcome to the first official episode of the Healthcare and Excellence podcast. And I am excited about what we're doing today. I have a very, very special guest and co host joining me today to help me kick off what is going to be the start of a brand new journey for this entire podcast. And let me just quickly introduce my co host today, Dr. Brittany Scott. Dr. Scott is the founder and CEO of the Clinic Doctor, and also an amazing podcast host, host of the DEI Disruptors podcast. Dr. Scott, let me thank you so much for joining me today. Your background with healthcare, process improvement, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and just your overall friendship and energy is an honor to help me kind of kick off this new thing that we're doing with the podcast here. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jarvis. I'm so happy to be here.
All right. Well, Dr. Scott, before we even get into what we're doing in today's episode, I'd love to give you an opportunity to tell us more about you, tell us about the Clinic Doctor, and definitely drop some information about the DEI Disruptors. I'd love for my audience to check you out as well as they have the chance to plug in.
Yes. Okay. So again, I'm Dr. Brittany Scott. I'm so excited to be here. A little bit about me is that I'm a physician by background who through an amazing series of events have ended up at this intersection between diversity, equity, and inclusion and process improvement. And with that, I started the Clinic Doctor. And basically, the Clinic Doctor, we're the people that you call whenever you're struggling when it comes on to retention, if you're struggling when it comes on to employee turnover, if you're struggling when it comes on to work culture. We love to put process to anything culture, diversity, equity, inclusion, and that also includes health equity. We're healthcare focused. We're a healthcare process improvement consulting firm. However, our focus is on people. That's what we really care about. So, you could always find us at www.clinicdoctorconsulting.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and you can listen to the DI Disruptors podcast. We have so many amazing DI leaders, and our new season is actually going to be dropping next month. So be on the lookout. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll definitely hear more about the new season of the podcast. But enough about me. Let's talk about you, Jarvis.
All right, fair enough. Well, healthcare leaders. So today's episode has Dr. Scott come on and help me kind of kick off this brand new journey for the podcast. And I'm actually going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Scott, and we're just going to have a good conversation about where we're going with this, and maybe even reflect a little bit on the past, but most importantly, kind of set up the path for the future. So, Dr. Scott, let me turn the microphone over to you. I am officially your guest now.
I didn't really like me in the hot seat. I like it better being the host.
I know the feeling.
Okay, so Jarvis, I'm gonna jump right in, right? Like 2 feet in the water. You want to know, you're clearly very experienced and you've been in the space for a while, but I want to know if you were first day of your first healthcare quality job, if that was you, right? If you were going to talk to you at that time, what would be some advice that you would give yourself?
All right. So I remember for me, Dr. Scott, I came into healthcare back in 2007 and already started building up, my skill sets around project management, just starting to get into my process improvement skill sets. And the very first project that I had was working with a team in the emergency department. Long story short, I came in like a bulldozer, trying to tell people what to do and how we were going to manage a project and what was up and what was down. And one of the nurse leaders that I worked with literally raised her hand and said, "New guy, have a seat." And she took over the meeting. So for sure, without a doubt, Dr. Scott, I would easily go back and just focus, on building more relationships
Yeah.
very early in my career. So building relationships with the teams that I worked with, even more important, building relationships with the leaders, 5 steps in front of me. So how to build a better leadership presence, how to focus on my personal growth, how to focus on work-life balance, right? So, still progressing career-wise, but making sure that I'm still reaching out to other friends and colleagues and family members to keep everyone connected. So those are things that I still try to focus on now, but to have learned that lesson sooner, I think would have been highly beneficial for my process.
So honestly, that's so funny to hear a story like that coming from you because we met, it's been a few years now, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think, but we met because you're such a good relationship builder. And I really couldn't imagine you coming in there. This is what we're going to do. But like, well, at least I'm grateful that you learned the lesson. But I think it's a good one to learn.
Yeah, it took me a couple of years. I finally figured it out. But yeah, when I first stepped into healthcare, it was I'm the PM, you guys are the team, follow my lead. I'm gonna take us, it was always focused on success. I just didn't do it the right way. Building relationships, keeping in touch with folks long term. It took me a couple of years to figure it out. Now always a work in progress, but for especially for any of my younger executives or leaders, listening to this conversation, the sooner the better. And it's never too late. Like even now, I reach back out to posts from previous years. That's something that I wish I knew sooner, but now that I know it, I try to hold on to it pretty well.
Yeah, that's such wise advice. So we just talked about what you would do in your like first day self. Like what advice you would get to your first day self, but we know that this is not your first day on the job. In fact, you have a little under 20 years in the healthcare quality space. You've been everything from an entry level like quality partner to an AVP in quality and process improvement. You've worked throughout the healthcare space from nonprofit to for-profit to insurance and just a little bit about everything in between. You've worked at some of, the biggest names from Duke to Kaiser to HCA to Emory to Wellstar to people like to even working with HRSA and Novartis, and like you just done so much work within this space. I want to know, like you have a stellar resume, but I want to know about how you got here. Like I want to hear your story. And to hear your story, I want to start. So I'm thinking in your business a little bit, Jarvis.
All right.
That's the thing about being on the hot seat. I want to start off with learning a little bit about your childhood. One of the things that have this theory, and the theory, I call it the batteries included theory. And the idea behind it is that I believe that we all come batteries included as people, as humans, that we were already built with all the things that we needed to achieve our purpose, to achieve success, to achieve a good life. Like all of it is already here. It's already batteries included. And then we spend the rest of our life trying to figure out what's already in there. And so my question to you is, what batteries do you think were included in you as a child that help you now do the work that you do?
Yeah, so that one, to go back to my childhood, I'll say it's pretty easy. My mother instilled a lot of amazing batteries in me, Dr. Scott. So, long story short on this one, but born and raised down in Miami, South Florida. That I always describe it as it was a Scarface Miami, right? It was Miami's during the early '80s where things were different from how they are now in 2024, at least. But my mom had me young, so she was 16 when she had me. I had the opportunity to graduate high school with my mom as a kid.
Mm.
She got a full ride to the University of Florida, so I had a chance to start college with my mom.
Wow.
Going through, our ups and downs. We were homeless for a period of time while we were trying to get settled, for her at a young age with me. And so we kind of grew up together. And
Yeah.
so a lot of that journey was really built around not quitting. My mom tells me this story. One of her high school teachers told her she was going to be just another statistic,
Mm.
right? So a lot of what we went through and persevered through at that time was just making it to the next step, finding, success given our resources at the time. And I remember telling my mom when I was like in third or fourth grade that I was going to be a boss. I didn't know what that meant, but it was like, I'm going to do something big. I'm going to help change our situation. Fast forward to when I was in middle school to high school, my mom actually like drew out the plans for our house. did
Wow.
all the work, and together we built the house. This time I have brothers and everything, but to see my mom build a house, that's where I started learning about engineering. So when I entered college, I actually entered as a civil and architectural engineer because of the experience working with my mom to build a house at that time. So, of course, I made the switch into industrial engineering, but the things that have led me from growing up to getting into college and now even the things I'm doing to build a business really comes from a heart to persevere and to overcome just the day-to-day challenges, but knowing that we can be resourceful, that, there's kind of a never give up attitude. There's definitely kind of a rebellious spirit because we were supposed to be the statistic, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I still lead with now that I mean, seriously reflect on them constantly. And even with my kids, those are the things I try to teach my kids, even though my situation is better. I still
Mhm.
want them to have that focus, that drive, that resourcefulness that I can go with.
Wow. Jarvis, also, I'm learning so much about you. But I think that that makes so, like, that literally makes so much sense. I think that one of the key skills in somebody who's really good at process improvement is resourcefulness, is being able to say, what do we have and how do we get from where we are now to where we want to be with the resources that we have? And like that just, it makes like you make a lot of sense to me just even listening to that story and like even like the rebellion. I think that that also makes such a good like process person, quality person, being able to say, well, why do we do this? Do we need to do this? And can we do it differently? And somebody without a little bit of rebellion may struggle a lot more with that idea of like, can we do this? Like, can we do this thing that we've always done? Can we do it differently? Or can we stop doing it at all?
Yeah. Well, even down to principles, philosophies that my mom taught was adaptability, right?
Yeah.
She used to put me in situations and like ask, okay, so this is what we're doing. What do you see as the option? So at a young age, like teach
Wow.
me that. She taught me chess at a young age. Just more so because of strategy and options. Like, can you figure your way out to get out the bag, right?
Yeah.
One of my mom's favorite sayings was, take what you got, make what you want.
Yeah.
That was it. Take what you got, make what you want. And so that, that adaptability mindset has always been there. And so that's what I lead with today. Those are my batteries included.
Jarvis, come on. Okay, so Jarvis, you didn't obviously, you already had so many skills as a child, like just literally batteries included. You came preloaded, right? And for the work and the life that you lead now. But like in between there, in between childhood and where you are now, you got your bachelor's in engineering, you got two master's like degrees, one in project management, one in health admin. You literally, Jarvis, you have so many certifications. Like the fact that I feel like you shorten your name on LinkedIn because teaches you have your black belt in Lean Six Sigma, your PMP, your FASHI, your CMQOE, your literally everything, right? But then on top of that, after, in between building your credentials from an education perspective, you became a husband and a father, which I feel like we can never overlook. And, you also can't overlook the value that becoming a husband and a father brings to the work that you do and to the purpose that you serve. But then also, didn't just leave it at education. You started getting to work. You got experience. You went from, entry level at Duke, which is such a crazy, like, okay, I'm going to start out at Duke, right? But like starting entry level at Duke and then, from there, you eventually made it to Atlanta and have been with like worked with all of the biggest players through the like Atlanta like healthcare circuit, but not even just that. Like you worked with some of the biggest players in the country in healthcare. You work with people like Kaiser, who's literally the nation's largest nonprofit integrated health care provider. You've worked with HCA, which is also the largest health system in the U.S. by bed size, and you know clearly also the largest for-profit player in the like healthcare game right now. But all of that stuff is great. Like, again, you're really successful, you're really accomplished. There's a reason why you are where you are right now. But what I really want to hear more about, we've had this conversation about not just like your journey, not just being an amazing quality guy, an amazing process improvement guy, an amazing project management guy, like not just that, right? But literally going from I get process improvement to I get strategy. I understand the business. I like my goal isn't just to do projects. My goal is to make the business better and with every move that I make. I want to hear more about that kind of journey from like I get process to I got the business and I really everything that I do is to make the business better.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I will say, so wrapping into my professional background first, I was in a position, I won't call out any of my past, experiences, but I was in a position where I just simply wonder, why are we doing what we do? Right. Which led me to asking a lot of leaders up and down the board that I worked with at the time, like, why, why do you even want to do this job? Why are you in a leadership position? What's your vision for yourself? So it was really trying to understand the people who were driving the business at the time, and the things that I kept learning kept coming back to strategy.
Mm.
So then I actually went on kind of my own personal discovery of strategy, reading a lot of books, a lot of the greats, Kaplan and all these guys who
Yeah.
created the things that top organizations should be doing, balanced scorecards and strategy maps and all that kind of stuff. So I would say personally, from a professional side, I just kind of geeked out on the why. That was really it. It was like, why are we doing this? I did have a chance to go through Baldrige and become an examiner with Baldrige and learn that there was so much more to world-class performance than just Lean Six Sigma stuff.
Yeah.
But it was really just a personal interest on the personal side. Like I said, I think it was just a lot of how I was built, and the things that my mom instilled in me at the time to really allow me to question things, and that confidence, for her to raise a young man to be confident, to believe in himself and the things he's seeing in the world. So I think it was just kind of the perfect balance between the two of those. But work wise, when I finally did make it to Emory, I was brought in as a corporate director of quality process improvement, and within a few months, had also gotten a promotion into strategic director as well.
Wow.
Because now I was finally mature enough, I guess, career wise, to say, hey guys, let's talk strategy before quality, process
Yes.
improvement, all the other stuff. And then that strategy niche that I was developing, at that time and growing personally in my understanding, I've taken that to every opportunity that I've had
Mm.
since. And even with the work I do with my clients now, they appreciate the strategy focus, I would say, even more than just the process improvement or quality improvement focus. Some of the work that I was just doing with a large client, they brought me in to do quality, and it quickly turned into strategy.
Yeah.
And like months later, we have still not really talking about strategy, or excuse me, talking about quality. It's
Yeah.
been strategic placement of resources, strategic, structure of how they built out their teams. So what I've personally learned is strategy drives everything in terms of our quality, our resources, how we educate our teams, all of the fun stuff. But it was a lot of personal stuff and just me having conversations and like getting to the root of this, right? We're PI people. Let's get to the root cause of why are we really doing this? Why, why do we have lean process improvement training programs that allow people to do personal programs or personal projects where they're focusing on their golf game instead of in first in their department? Like that was one of the things that really set me off. I was like, no, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So just challenging what I was seeing.
I love that, Jarvis, because I think, even from like an ROI perspective, right? Like, you know, hospitals, health systems are businesses at the end of the day. And you're like as we think about like resource allocation, a lot of it is going to also boil down to ROI that they're getting out of it, right? And so if you what I've seen a lot in like the PI space is that we do all these projects, right? But how does that align with what the business itself wants? Like, yes, we want these things for all this other stuff, but a lot of times we don't even actually know the why, like why we're actually doing this. And is this the first line of action? Or maybe this is the 10th thing that we should be doing. Or maybe this is the last thing that we should be doing, right? But, if we don't start with strategy, if we don't have a goal, if we don't have an end game, there's no way to work our way back and know that what we're doing right now is aligned with that so that we can also get ROI that we desire.
Well, and even more importantly is helping not just, when you make it to certain levels of leadership, you think you understand the why, whether you fully do or don't, to your point, Dr.
Yeah.
Scott, but what about the people at the front line? Like if
Yes.
the people on top don't have pure, clear vision, then the people at the bottom who are doing the day-to-day stuff, that's, working with patients or cooking the food in the cafeteria, their understanding becomes even more clouded. Then we get high turnover rates. We get people leaving the industry. We get people burnt out.
Yeah.
So there's a whole connected process. Um, so that again, that's just the journey I've been on for, natural interests and instincts, I guess, and now trying to do what I can to kind of level it up and just help people see that on a much bigger scope.
Oh my goodness. I could go down a whole rabbit hole of this conversation, but I wanted to talk about your book,
Okay.
right? Like, I want to talk about your book. Tell us a little bit about it. What inspired it and what can folks expect to learn from it?
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, this perfectly aligns even with kind of thinking with the last question. When you have spent almost 20 years, like you called me out, got me feeling like an old man over here.
Sorry.
Um, you know, when you're doing things for 20 years and you still see that you're working on the same projects that you worked on 20 years ago, you're still having conversations that you had almost 20 years ago. We've come through a pandemic and organizations still have the capacity and the capabilities of what they had pre-pandemic, right? Um, I've been thinking for years, let me write a book. Let me figure something out. Like there has to be a contribution that I can make. And then at the beginning of this year, late 2023, early 24, I finally had the vision. So, the name of the book is Mastering Healthcare Excellence. And this was me in my own fun way trying to build out a model for excellence bit by bit that healthcare leaders can review, kind of really dive into. I'm also giving tools, ideas on how to facilitate it. And my hope is that one is my contribution to the industry to say there's a better way. Let me challenge the status quo, check it out. And here's not just a book about theory, but the actual tools that I've used here and there with, a mix of different clients and different opportunities that I've had and putting it into a book. So that's kind of what drove it.
Oh, I don't want a spoiler, right? We're on the podcast. I feel like the podcast listeners deserve a little spoiler. So, my question to you is what is your favorite lesson that you put in the book?
My favorite lesson in the book. So two things obviously come to mind. Uh, excuse me. The first is around the dedication. Really, um, the book writing process was interesting enough. After the entire book was written, then I had to, figuring it out. But went and wrote the dedication and just reflecting on the people that inspired me personally to write the
Mhm.
book. My mom again, she gets a shout out. My family gets a shout out. Um, all of the colleagues that I've worked with over the years got shot out, and also the author's note. So again, it kind of tells the story a little bit on what motivated me to kind of put my thoughts together in a book. But then, funny enough, now the way I love reading a book is like give me the summary chapter. So For all of my quick read folks, there is a summary chapter near the end of the book that just highlights the chapters, the strategies, the tools that I'm writing about, and some high level case studies where you can kind of get a feel on how things were done at other organizations. Of course, I couldn't write about real client interactions, not without paperwork and all that kind of fun stuff, but doing the research to find examples of these tools being used that have been formally published. That's the exciting things that anyone who reads the book will find is like, these are real tools, real business tools that are being applied in a lot of different settings, some healthcare, some not, but they can absolutely apply to healthcare because unfortunately, no matter how you want to look at it, healthcare is a business first. It's
Yeah.
a business with components of care and all the amazing things that we do, but we do have to respect the business side of everything.
Okay. So I guess from process person to process person, right? I also like to read books like that. I like the efficiency. Let's get to the point. Give you the good stuff, right? So I plan on being first in line. I plan on being first in line to purchase my copy. But where do we purchase it? When is it coming out? Where? How do I purchase this book? Because clearly I need.
Yeah, so the book comes out officially on September the 3rd of this year, 2024. And it's going to be available, of course, on all the major platforms, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But for anyone, if you go to my website, you can access, we're going to try to get it posted. Today is late August, but in the next couple of days, if you want a free e-copy of the book, we're going to get that posted in the next few days. We have the audio book coming as well. I was just on the phone with the company just last night. They were giving me all the updates on the audio book. So that'll be on Audible. The ebook version, like I mentioned, is coming, and we'll have that on Kindle in the next couple of weeks. So the goal is to get it out and to get it in as many hands of, healthcare leaders, and hopefully to have a positive impact. And I look forward to the feedback. Please coach me up, or if you want to test out any of these models or tools, then there's some marketing in there, everybody. I'll be straightforward with that. But at the end of the day, you can take it and use it and may not even need to call me. So it's going to be really robust, I hope. And we're going to keep building on it. I've already got the second and third book ideas kind of lining up as well.
Okay. So I'm excited. Also, what is your website? You said you can find it on your website. What's your website?
So the website is www.
Perfect. So we're getting close to wrapping up the podcast, but I want to talk about the podcast itself.
Okay.
You started out as the healthcare quality cast, and now you've revitalized it as the Excellence in Healthcare podcast. Tell us about it. Like, why the change? Why now? And what's happened in between?
Yeah. So trying to think back. So I paused the healthcare quality cast back in May of 2022. And, right there in kind of the really weird mix of things with the pandemic and, are we opening up? Are we closing? And so forth. Many of my clients at the time, I personally needed to pivot my business because my healthcare clients were saving the world, respectively. So at that time, again, I made the decision to pause it, knowing that I wasn't done, right? I love the podcast process, connecting with the amazing leaders that I met during that time. So, I paused it, didn't end it, made some pivots business wise. So I did go into business coaching and business consulting for a wide range of industries, working with pest control businesses, local small businesses here in the Atlanta market. I've been very fortunate. I've worked with businesses based in Africa at this point, businesses based with Canada. So really get into just the overall business market, but still doing the same stuff that I do, working with them on strategies and process improvement for their business and so forth. And then again, at the beginning of this year, having a chance to really come back 100% to a healthcare market. So only working with healthcare clients now that it's, safer, I'll say, to get back into healthcare from a consulting, coaching point of view. And yeah, that was it. Just kind of seeing the state of healthcare. It wasn't any better, in my opinion, than when I left. So that's very much what influenced the book, and the book influenced the resurgence of the podcast. So now, instead of just being the healthcare quality cast where we cater to, up and coming leaders and definitely senior leaders who want to hear from other leaders on how they grew their careers and the lessons learned and other things they're doing to make their organizations better. The new focus, the Excellence in Healthcare podcast, is really going to be about empowering excellence, right? Because we hear a lot of groups say it all the time. There's a lot of folks who believe in excellence and high reliability, but I want to make this podcast the official authority that can say, no, we believe in it, but this is how you do it, right? Here are the tools. Here are the techniques. Here's an approach to strategy. And so we're going to pull in a lot of different topics related to healthcare excellence. I am going to bring on some guests who can also speak to it from, the areas of healthcare in which they serve. But this will be probably me doing more solo episodes, giving my perspective. And then on top of all of that, Scott, we are going to bring more connecting opportunities. So we'll be doing masterminds, we'll be doing networking events for healthcare leaders who just want to connect with the goal of learning from the folks down the road, right? We think the people down the road are competitors. I don't see it that way. I see them as collaborators because there's a really good chance that, people in my community are going right down the road every now and then and going to the next hospital. So we have to build a network and learn appropriately and challenge each other to grow, to innovate. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing with the podcast now, is keeping the conversations going from the book to the podcast and more communities that I think there's a pretty cool opportunity to help build.
Wow. All right, Liz. Oh my goodness. There's so much good in all of that. And, as someone in healthcare as well, I just want to say thank you. Like, thank you for kind of what you're bringing to the space. And it's something that's refreshing and very necessary. And I'm really looking forward to being able to be involved in it and to learn from you, continue to learn from you, and to grow with like the Excellence in Healthcare podcast. So I do have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
As we're wrapping up, let's say that we're sitting here a year from now celebrating what a great year it's been for the Excellence in Healthcare podcast. Take a second to think about it. But what exactly did we achieve this year, and how are we celebrating?
All right. So right now it is almost the launch of the podcast. It's almost the launch of the book. And the reason that I selected September is because that's my birthday month. I wish it was more strategic than that. Even the strategy guy can be very simple. So a year from now, it will almost be my birthday month again. And so we're celebrating my birthday in addition to the success. But success is really going to be, how many of the copies of the book can we get into other leaders' hands? How much feedback can I get as to people, starting to test out some of the tools and techniques and the things that we're helping, promote through the book. My goal with the podcast really is to grow the podcast even better than I did last time. And one cool thing with the first podcast, the Healthcare Quality Cast, is I launched it not really knowing the impact of what a podcast to do. Originally, I got so many emails and, messages about how helpful the podcast was to a lot of folks. Even when I paused it, I was still getting messages from listeners, folks that, were being completely honest and transparent with how, some of the feedback helped them improve their careers, helped them improve some of their approaches on projects. So now that I understand, the real impact of what podcasts can do, I think I want to intentionally do it now. Last time it just happened and it was an amazing experience. But the goal this time is to really create communities and create content that's going to be helpful. So I'm just looking forward to the feedback. If people engage with it, I'll consider that a success. And The way we're going to celebrate is head down to Miami and then go down to Key West for a little bit and officially take some time off,
Yes.
because that is one thing that I am trying to do better of, is that self-care and that, relaxing my brain. But right now I'm on a mission, but a year from now, I might try to take a little downtime and go back down south for a little bit and recuperate or rejuvenate a little bit and come back, a little bit better.
Travis, I'm gonna have to have you on my wellness workshops and stuff.
Ooh.
We can get you a little bit more rest in between, but that sounds great to me. So before we end the podcast, when and where should listeners be tuning into the show? And how do they keep up to date with the other amazing things that you all will be doing?
Right. So we are officially kicking off the podcast at the beginning of September 2024, and this will be the first official conversation coming. I think the date we have set is Tuesday the 10th. Every episode comes out at 2 a.m. And so no expectation you're going to listen, but by 2 o'clock, on a Tuesday, we're going every single week. In terms of the book is released on September the 3rd. So I guess by the time people listen to this, the book should have already been out for at least a week. And then everything else will either be through the website, updates coming for sure through the podcast. And then please, let's connect on LinkedIn for anyone checking out any of this content. And I'll be posting things on LinkedIn. Right now, I just shared with you, Brittany, that I have my 30-day video challenge going on, because that was another skill that I wanted to learn, is like how to get comfortable with videos. But I'll be dropping video updates on everything. So LinkedIn is kind of my digital playground of choice, I guess. But we're gonna do a lot more posting as the next several weeks start to come up.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, my friend, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you and for this revitalization of the podcast. I'm excited for where all the other things that are to come. And I'm also excited for your book. But I'm now going to go ahead and I'm going to hand you back over the host mic and take you up the hot seat.
But no, Brittany, again, thank you for everything, your friendship, your partnership over these last couple of years since we've been just collaborating back and forth. Before we disconnect, how can folks find you again? Any specific ways you want to navigate folks to learn more about the amazing things you're doing?
Well, you can always follow me on LinkedIn. So my name is Brittany, that's Britney. Last name Scott, and that's a pretty general name. So MDLSSBB. That's the way that you find me on LinkedIn. You can also find my website over at clinicdoctorconsulting.com. And then always feel free to email me. My email is ceo@clinicdoctorconsulting.com. I'd love to chat with you all.
All right, fantastic. And Brittany will include all those great links in this show's episode. Let me thank you again, Dr. Scott, just for everything. It feels good to get out of the hot seat. And now, our following episodes, everyone, you're going to get more around the excellence in healthcare models and topics that we're bringing, and a lot of this stuff coming. So please stay tuned and please plug in. This is Jarvis and Brittany, and we are officially signing.